Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about when your ex doesn't respect you. Okay? So, one of the reasons why your ex might not respect you is a few of these things. So this could be some of the reasons why they don't respect you. So the first one is that you have acted weak or needy in the past. So when the breakup happened, if you kind of like cried to them, if you begged with them, if you tried to reason with them, if you tried to fight for the relationship and you were pursuing them heavily to try and make it work, then you would have shown weakness in that scenario. So they may have seen you as someone who's a lot weaker and basically not very attractive, right? So the best thing to do when someone breaks up with you isn't really the natural response, right? The natural response is to do all of those things I just listed. It is to try and fight for it, to beg, to plead, maybe even to cry, to try and stop them from leaving. But the best thing to do that's going to switch the power dynamic is if you just gracefully accept it. You accept the breakup, you say something like, you know what, that really sucks. I'd rather we stay together, but you know what, I don't want to be with someone that doesn't love me. I want to be with someone that loves me. So, goodbye, basically, have a great life, but, I want to be with someone that loves me, so that's okay if you want to go. So if you say something like that, then it's more likely that, first of all, they may even regret their choice. Secondly, it's going to switch the power dynamic because they were probably thinking, oh yeah, they're gonna beg, they're gonna plead, or they at least thought that you would offer some resistance, right? So it's going to confuse them a little bit as well, and it's going to make them feel less desirable because perhaps they were expecting you to fight for them, and if you don't fight for them, it makes them feel less desirable, and it makes you appear therefore more attractive, right? So sometimes you could even switch it around and actually get your ex back if you actually say something like that immediately when your ex breaks up with you, when the breakup happens. And it shows that it shows when you say something like that, it shows that you respect yourself. You're not going to sit around or try and force yourself into a place where you're not wanted, right? You go and find people that do want you, right? That's the self-respecting thing to do. You go out and you find people, you find friends, you find romantic lovers that do want you around, and you don't stick around in places where you're not wanted and where you're not valued, right? You do that for all kinds of areas of your life. It's kind of like one of those rules of nature, right? If you want to be someone who has a self-respect in all areas of their life, it's the same thing that you do if you're in a job where you're not respected and valued and wanted, right? And you're just treated like a number. Even though you may need to stay in that job for a while, you are putting your applications out to different job opportunities and you're trying to find an environment where you are respected and valued and wanted. It's the same thing with dating. It's the same thing with romance. It's the same thing with your ex, right? In dating, if you don't get an enthusiastic yes when you ask someone out, then you should not be dating that person. If they're wishy-washy, if they're like, nah, no, I'm not really into it, or they say they're going to meet up with you but then they don't, and they're kind of just very wishy-washy. If you don't get a yes and that person doesn't show up on that date, if you don't get a yes and that person does show up on a date, then you do not want to be dating that person. You want to be dating a person that says yes and that shows up to those dates, right? You're not going to put yourself where you're not wanted, where you're not valued, where your time is not valued, where you're not being respected in that way, okay? And it's the same with friendships as well. You want to hang around with friends where things are mutual, where they put in the same mutual interest, right? They put in the effort with hanging out with you and things like that. Not where you're the one that's always putting in the effort all the time, okay? Because again, you're showing lack of self-respect when you do that sort of thing, okay? So that could be one of the reasons why your ex doesn't respect you, because perhaps initially you were trying to be in their life when they didn't want you in it, okay? Another reason why your ex may not respect you is you have not kept promises and have gone back on your word. And you may have done that while the relationship was happening. Like, it could be just like little things like, oh yeah, I'll cook tonight, or I'll clean out the garage, or I'll fix the radiator, or I'll go shopping, or I'll clean the floor. But you didn't do any of those things. You didn't do what you said that you were going to do, right? And sometimes you can do that that can even happen when the breakups happened. If that, say you've perhaps got some entanglements with them, like it could be financial things, it could be the fact that you got kids, if you, go back on your promises, they're not going to respect you. So if you're going to do something, then do it. If you say you're going to do it, then do it, right? For example, you may say to them, look, you may say to them, okay, I don't want to be with you. If you don't want to be with me, I want to be with someone that loves me. And you say that to them, but then next week you're contacting them in tears because you want them back. That is, again, going back on your word, because you said basically in that statement that you would leave them alone, and now a week later you're crying to them and you're begging to them. They're not going to respect you if you do things like that, okay? So this all goes to, do not be a doormat. Don't let people walk over you. Don't give off this sort of vibe that you're always going to be around, and they can always, fall back on you if they feel like they want to, right? You don't want to ever give that kind of presence to anybody. You don't want to be that friend, for example, that everybody calls when all of their other friends are busy, because you're the one that will always say yes, right? You don't want to be that kind of person either, right? So in a way, you got to learn to negotiate. You got to learn to negotiate what you want, right? And sometimes it's kind of like an unspoken negotiation. Like, for example, if you invite your friend around for dinner, then you expect later on down the line that they're also going to reciprocate that, and they're going to invite you round for dinner as well. Or, you go to the cinema with them and you pay for the tickets, and then there's that unspoken contract that the next time, or it may even be something that you've spoken to them about, but the next time they pay for the tickets or something. Or like when you go out for drinks and you buy the first round and they buy the second round, something like that. It's kind of like those unspoken negotiations. So you got to learn to negotiate. You got to learn to negotiate in relationships too. You got to, because sometimes, let's say, you can't just go along with basically what everybody else wants. You got to do sometimes things that you want too, right? This is where a lot of people go wrong in relationships. They become people pleasers, essentially, right? And they're always trying to please other people, but then they never end up pleasing themselves. So they're always catering to everyone else's needs, making sure everyone else is okay, and then you don't get to do what you want, right? So you got to learn to negotiate. You got to say to them, okay, so yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then, on Saturday, I'd like 2 hours to myself. I'd like to, 2 hours to go and see my friends, or I would like 2 hours to go and play video games, or I would like to go and work on my business or something like that. Or I would like to go to the gym. You got to learn how to negotiate in that way. But if you allow people to walk over you and to just take advantage of you, and you don't stand your ground and state what you want sometimes, then people are just going to keep on walking over you, and they're not going to respect you. And if you do that kind of thing with your ex, they're also not going to respect you either. So you got to learn how to negotiate, okay? And that's in all areas of your life, right? It's good to find out, learn techniques on negotiation, because you can use your negotiation skills that you learn for like business. You can use those skills in dating, in relationships, when it comes to other dynamics like with exes. You can use it with your friendships. You can use it in relationships at work with your colleagues, those kinds of things. So learn how to negotiate, okay? And then you'll get more respect, because you know how to lay out what your terms are, and you're able to walk away if your terms are not met. Okay, that's negotiation. Okay, so essentially respect starts with you. So you got to learn how to, and you've got to develop more self-respect. Okay, so one of the ways that you can do that is by progressing in life. You got to learn how to, because if you're always being lazy and you're being idle, and you're not doing anything with your life, or perhaps you're not doing anything that is progressing your life in the direction where you want it to go. Like perhaps you've just been doing the same thing for 10 years. You've been getting the same paycheck for 10 years. You've had the same kind of body for 10 years. You haven't improved yourself, right? You haven't improved your knowledge or your skills. So you've always got to be improving yourself in some kind of way, because that makes you feel good about yourself. That makes you feel proud of yourself. Now, if you're already happy with your life and you already do have self-respect and you're already proud of yourself, then you probably don't need to do those things. Although I still think it's good to still always be progressing no matter what you're doing. I think that's one of the best things that you can do, because if you're not growing, then you're doing the opposite, which is dying, okay? So you've always got to be learning to improve. But if you are happy with the way your routine is, then fine. You know, it's your life. You live it the way you want to live. But there's a good quote, and I've been using it a lot recently, by Dale Carnegie. And that is, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So if you want to feel good about yourself, if you want to feel pride in yourself, if you want to feel self-respect, then work on the things that you know you should be working on. And everyone has a list of things that they know they should be doing, but they're not doing, right? Even if that list is mental, right? You know, for example, that you should be exercising regularly. You know you should be eating the right things. You know you should be working on those projects. You know you should be learning that skill that you've always wanted to learn. You know that you should be, putting more effort in this area or that area. We know these things, okay? So when you start doing those things, you'll start to feel better about yourself. You'll start to feel more confident about yourself. And therefore, you'll develop more self-respect. And if you have more self-respect, then other people will start respecting you too. Respect starts with you and how you feel and view yourself. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again soon. Goodbye, guys.